we're gonna watch Lizzo now. Isn't that what you want?
Yay.
Dane? So it says, guys, Lizzo has been invited to James Madison's crib. He lived on a plantation, so Lizzo has been invited to James Madison's plantation after playing his crystal flute. So my issue with this, my big issue, and I won't spend too much time on it, is that they've turned this country and the issues that we faced through it into a joke, into punchline. Meaning, in the year 2020, I'm from Minnesota, so I was there during the George Floyd riots. And as we know, everything that happened in the 2 years after, or the year after that, right? They burned down cities, they tore down monuments, and now it's just fine. It's just fine now.
Well, it's been completely memory hold.
It's memory hold. Nobody cares.
Listen, not only did the fat lady sing, she's playing flute.
So true.
So
true. I just want to know why they're doubling down on this when
of all the hills to die on.
And why is it that if in their minds Lizzo playing the crystal flute is an act of like restorative justice?
That's what they said, yeah.
Then why is her performing at James Madison's home, his historical home, also an act of restorative justice when quite literally slaves, some people say up to like 100 slaves lived and worked there.
Because a different guy is in office now.
It's confirmed that when James Madison died, he owned 36 slaves and he didn't even will for them to be sold. He willed for them to be kept.
Yep.
And if you are trying to, with some weird like retribution ethic, like play this flute to disrespect his memory for that reason. How is visiting his plantation part of that plan? How does that fit into the plan?
Nuance is a fool's errand in today's day and age.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm a fool.
Well, so is the concept of pointing out their hypocrisy because they don't care because there's no truth but power. They don't care that they're hypocritical. They never have. It's like, you know, that Instagram account, Defiant L's. They always point out everybody who's ever been hypocritical in politics. It's pointless because they don't care.
I see inviting a black pop star to perform at a literal Southern plantation as some kind of humiliation ritual. It seems like she's like none the wiser to how that looks.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Also, who remembers when Ryan Reynolds got married at a plantation and then had to apologize for it?
That's
because he's a beta. I may think he's handsome, but he's still a beta. So he apologizes for it. We tear down monuments in the South, all because what? Because there's a different dude in office now. So now this happens every time too. Whenever things change, and then it goes back to suddenly being all fun and games, and then all of a sudden we're on the brink of destruction if something happens.
Yeah, since the tide shifted, then all of the Twitter stans, everyone on Stan Twitter, thinks that the Library of Congress is based and performing a black pop star performing at a literal slave plantation is based simply because the Library of Congress invited her to do so.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. That's the world we live in now.
Can you just
Explain
repeat that?
how.
I feel like I'm missing something, and I'm watching as like TMZ calls this iconic.
It's
what?
They literally have no qualms about the hyperbole when they insult and when they denigrate the history of this country. And remember, any other time that you want to celebrate anything in this country's past, you're not allowed to do that without being reminded of things that we've done wrong, right? No other country in the world is obsessed with their own flaws, with their own past mistakes than this country is. But then they get to do that half the time, and then the other half the time, they get to completely disregard it and talk about, yes, Queen Slay. Mm-hmm. Bullshit.
I mean, with the flute incident last time, with the flute gate, this is known. It's going to be known as flute gate, by the way.
Base.
Flute-gate was originally like justified because it was a gift from France to James Madison, which he likely never touched or played or barely even gave a passing glance, and it had nothing to do with him. Therefore, it's just cool to see her play an instrument that is that old and hasn't been touched in so long. But then why, if that is the justification for Flutegate, is she going to his house where he lived?
It's so weird.
And this video that the Library of Congress posted of Lizzo walking into the flute vault.
Can we play this? I don't know if we can play this.
I think we can. I don't think that there would be a copyright issue.
By this logic, they're gonna get George Washington's wooden teeth and use them as grills as well.
I think there was a Babylon Bee post recently that says to outdo Lizzo, Beyonce performs with George Washington's teeth. And then they photoshopped
this shows in the video that Lizzo wasn't even asked to remove her dark lipstick before playing historical instruments.
Also, why is it that when are they going to stop making the help wear masks?
That's what I noticed in the video too. While she's literally screaming.
She knew though. She
was
knew.
cognizant.
At least she knew that the lipstick, like, that's their fault for not telling her to remove it. It's not her fault. She knew that it was a thing, but nobody told her otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what instrument that is.
She's vibing though.
Right.
How do I play
Just
really?
Lizzo vibing at the Library of Congress flute vault. Nothing to see here.
As one does.
I mean, look, if this was so meaningless and like had such a tenuous connection to James Madison anyway, then why not just give it to her?
I want to and I want to play with historical documents or artifacts if that's the case.
Why
not the marketing man extraordinaire?
Why do they get to decide when something is appropriate and when something isn't, right? Why is it a joke when they do it, but then any other time when they feel like using it for political power, it's suddenly a serious offense?
I think it's the old George W. Bush quote, the soft bigotry of low expectations.
I think it's just political power. I don't think it's low expectations. I think it's literally... unless the low expectation is that they think that we're idiots and that we're not going to remember that this stuff happened. That these incidents happened.
No, but I mean, in the cases like, it's funny when she does it. You know, how would she know any better?
It's
guys?
really condescending.
Yeah,
isn't it?
That's what's going on.
So you think that they just assume that she doesn't know anything about James Madison?
Well, she probably doesn't know anything about James Madison. You're right,
yeah.
But like most people don't.
Word.
Or okay, how about this?
But
You don't need
what
to know
they're
anything
saying
about
is,
him.
how would she know any better that it would be like disrespectful to history or whatever? Or how would she even know better that it's a weird humiliation ritual to invite her to the plantation?
So do you think that's what it is? Do you think it's
I mean,
humiliation
I don't
ritual?
know. I don't know if it's...
I don't think they see it
It looks
that way.
like an attempt at restorative justice that, as usual, misses the mark and humiliates the person at the focal point.
Well, then my issue here is that there's never any type of like actual attempts at restorative justice that don't do damage to our history when it isn't the other group in power, right? So they only do this when there's a Democrat in office. They would never have done this.
I don't even think that it's just about race. I think it's also just about coarsening culture in general and conflating our like today's popular culture with what is considered like a more noble history.
So you think that they're just so
like
they hate our history so much that they want to trivialize it?
Yeah, like think about Danielle Bergoli, aka Bad Baby, getting invited to speak at Oxford Union. She's not the first pop star who's been invited there.
No.
Michael Jackson was invited there. Elton John was invited there. Madonna and other people in the art world like Anna Wintour.
She's not famous for being a pop star. She's famous for being a disrespectful brat.
Well, she's a rapper.
Well, I understand, but
so
you didn't know her because she's a rapper.
their
You knew her because of the
excuse
Dr.
for-
Phil clip is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's what made her career
Right.
now. But they, their overt excuse for inviting her is she's a business owner and she's a rapper.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's like the official narrative that we're supposed to accept. Her getting invited to Oxford Union, which, by the way, is happening in less than a month now.
We can't wait. We can't wait.
It's all about changing the fundamental character of these institutions.
But then they get so upset when anybody else celebrates any of our history. 4th of July, how dare you celebrate the 4th of July? Don't you know what this country has done?
Yeah, but it's like completely marring any appearance of like of propriety and respectability and nobility and
here's something,
patriotism.
Yeah,
and
here's something funny. If you on your phone, it with your calendar, and it lists your upcoming holidays. For Columbus Day, it lists Columbus Day, and underneath it lists Indigenous Peoples Day. But then it says like one is listed as a holiday, the other one's listed as an observance, and then it says if you'd like to like minimize all observances, just hit this button. So it's like we put it there, but then they want to be like we put it there because people told us to put it there, not that they actually believe it. So
yeah, I just want to know who is asking for this. Who is asking for Lizzo to
like there's no
get invited to perform at a literal plantation? Like that is so. Like, if she accepts this offer, she clearly is ignorant of the tone in which it was offered to her.
So you think then
like, it's so condescending.
Then she becomes an actual useful idiot.
Yes.
Ugh.
And just like all of her stands.
It makes me sad.
Who are calling it iconic, like slay, performing at the plantation. Like what?
I'm not much for government intervention, but nobody should be allowed to use the word iconic on social media anymore.
Well, especially in reference to an actual slave plantation.
Like it's
what?
Conservatives talk about our country's history with reverence and actually talk about it in detail, and that's bad because they're talking about the good and the bad. But then they get to say, yes, Queen Slay, iconic because a pop star is going to perform at a plantation. That's insane.
Think about like when Lizzo got torn apart on social media for having the word spaz in one of her songs.
That was like a month ago.
That wasn't so long ago.
No.
And now she is getting...
Proves you that none of it matters.
Right. It, like the memory...
And then Beyonce too.
Social media has the memory of like less than a goldfish.
Yeah.
Like,
it happened to Beyonce too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She said spaz as well.
Yeah.
How quickly the internet forgot about that and then started Yas Queen slaying about this.
Yeah.
I mean,
it just shows that all of like our constructions of like what is acceptable behavior,
the current thing.
I just like I'm not going to play this game anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm over it.
I've had my weeks recently where like I read this stuff and I'm just like I can't do it.
And that's what this seems like. It seems like a campaign to just fatigue you with ridiculous headline after ridiculous headline. You can't even believe that it's real.
This is my week for me. Like this is the week where I'm just...
Are we going to take turns?
Sick of it.
Is next week my week
Perhaps.
to be disillusioned with
I wonder if
the world?
I'd be interested. Do you guys listening or watching? Does this happen to you? Do you guys just get overwhelmed with just all of the... Like, it's kind of our fault then. Then we become the bearers of bad news. And this is one of those things where I actually tell some people that like it may seem stupid, it may seem trivial, but you read this stuff every day, day in and day out, and it starts to affect you, like in a weird way. Like it's not like I have like the greatest job in the world, but like you read enough like absolutely demoralizing things, and it just starts to affect your mood.
The thing is, the world is getting increasingly complex in many ways, technologically, biologically, in a lot of ways. And the authorities, in every sense of the word, are increasingly getting more and more unserious. And
we are an unserious people.
We're an unserious species at this point. And then when genuine issues arise and no one respects authority, they're flabbergasted. They're like, what could possibly happen? Why doesn't anyone take us seriously?
Why does no one trust the institutions anymore?
Right. Well, it's this.
Because
it's things like this.
You invited Lizzo to twerk in your institution.
It's also funny.
That's why.
It's also funny because this has been going on. I used to push back whenever people talk about Donald Trump being like he's not a serious politician. Like, when was the last time we actually had serious politicians? Mm-hmm. I can't remember. So
I mean, I'm not even asking for our pop stars to be taken seriously, but they're going for the appearance of that.
Yeah.
Right?
They want to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, they're telling me what actions to sponsor, what candidates to endorse.
Well, that's.
I'm not super emotionally affected by the news cycle and like entertainment news.
Mary and me are
thankfully.
different in that way.
But like
I mean-
that's partly because of what we were talking about. Like at least in part, my childhood was like witnessing a meme war. Like what even does that mean? I feel like even just like growing up on the computer,
I think for me,
I'm like a metaverse child. It's gross.
I think for me, growing up at a time when there was a lot less access to information, your news in your world was constructed by the media apparatus around you. So you had a fairly consistent and even keel view of the world because it was presented to you in that way. Even after 9/11, you had the world fell apart and turned upside down, but then the media all presented it one way. You didn't really get a lot of pushback in that sense. The same thing's been going on for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Now, as information is gathered and taken in by more people from more different places, you're given more perspectives. It feels so much more less connected because the mainstream media apparatus is trying to desperately hold on to that ability to, like we call tastemakers. And it just feels so ridiculous. All of it.
Yeah, I mean, the moment normies realized that the internet wasn't going anywhere and they mass adopted it, that's the beginning of all of this.
I posted a thing on my Instagram this weekend. I said the greatest gift anybody could give you these days would be to be a normie. If somebody could
real.
If I could hack up the red pill, as they say, I hate that term, but if I could hack that up and just be a normie again and just be brainless and consuming, I think I'd be a lot happier.
I don't even think that a normie is necessarily like lesser intellectually.
Well, it's
being
like,
super plugged into the news cycle is something a lot of NPCs do.
Like, I wish that I could
as a
look
replacement for a hobby.
Not really.
would-
They hear a phrase and they repeat it. It's not. They're not plugged in. They're just like, oh, this person said this. I said this. Like,
I wish that I could hear about Lizzo playing a flute that belonged to James Madison at James Madison's house and be like, we have come so far as a country. Oh my goodness, that is fantastic.
I don't wanna
What am I
live the
doing for
lie.
dinner tonight? I have no idea.
Chicken nuggies.
I wish that could be me. I wish I could just be like,
No.
she's a fat woman who's playing the flute at like, I wish I could do that, but you can't do that if you actually know what's going on in the world, and that is a bummer. Like I yearn
Why do
for
you
such.
want to live the lie?
I yearn for such ignorance because it would be so much easier.
Nah.
You can't.
No, that's not ignorance. That's knowing about it and loving it.
No, I'm saying that I wish I could go back before I knew about how different things actually were. I wish that I could just embrace the ignorance, but I can't. You can't do that. Can't go back.
Real ignorance is bliss would just never be never hearing that headline ever.
Fair enough.
Living in a convent.
So we're doing this to the people who are listening to the show. We're burdening them
Oops.
with Lizzo.
No. The goal of this show is just to make everyone feel like they're not alone in going crazy.
And give them a way to spend their afternoon so that they don't feel like they're the only ones who know that this stuff is happening.
Yeah.
We are here with you, my friend. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.